This episode of Bonfireside Chat is brought to you by our Patreon patrons. All of them. All 117 of them. Not any specific one. Thank you guys so much. If you go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, you too can get the shows early, participate in our live stream, get all kinds of little bonuses, and help us out. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you much, and Umbasa.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
You've seen that gaping hole here? Well, there's nasty little vermin down there. Although who you seek is even further below. Men develop the most peculiar fascinations. Sometimes their fascinations seem to take control, till there's very little man left.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And my name is Vivienne.
And you are listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a cursed favorite.
And this week we are talking about the Gutter and Black Gulch. Or Gutter and Gulch, if you want to get cute.
Convenience store.
Yeah.
Like a bowling convenience store.
Yeah, the Gulp Gulch.
Yeah.
Glug, glug, glug. Yeah, and as you heard, we are joined by Vivienne. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, no problem. Always a pleasure to be here for the worst dungeons of the games.
I feel like so you came on here because you preemptively called I want to be in whatever is the gross Blighttown equivalent?
Well, okay, basically what happened, I was in Lost Izalith and the Demon Ruins in Season 1, and there was sort of a joke. It's like, oh, I picked the worst area of the game to talk about. And then in Season 2, I kind of got roped into 5.2 and 5.3, which is just, like, not so much the Blighttown thing, it's just this place is a total morass that nobody likes to play. And so, you know, in the preparation for Dark Souls 2, I kind of mentioned to Gary, I was like, hey, you should put me on whatever the worst episode is, just as a joke. And then he sends me this message when he discovers the Gutter, which I hadn't seen yet. And he's like, so I just played a level called the Gutter last night. You want to do that one? And I said, sure, that sounds right up my alley.
It's true. Local gutter enthusiast.
Is that Viv's lower third?
Right.
I mean,
I was a little disappointed, to be honest. It's not so bad.
Yeah, when we get to the appendix next week, that's the kind of resounding opinion of the listener base, is that, this is not the Blighttown of this game, despite all of the outward appearances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just take some of the kind of shorthand and design elements, but it's not too bad.
No.
What did we do last time, Cole?
Well, last time we polished off our first old one by killing the Lost Sinner in her crazy little prison cell. Then we donned our mining helmets and took an ill-advised plunge into the pits, making several jolly rat friends along the way in a, Tolstoy or Dostoevsky. What's that guy? The Nutcracker Suite?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
neither Tolstoy nor Dostoevsky.
Yeah, I was going to say neither of those.
Yep.
I think that you might have the country or continent.
Hence why I threw off. Oh, well, it's like the rat guys from Nutcracker Suite. It would have been cool if I could have made that poll, but I could not make that poll.
It would have been cool if you could have made that reference to the Nutcracker Suite.
Yep.
Cool thing that teens love.
Yep. Thumbs up, bro. Ride the wave. Sidewalk surfing. Gonna grind a dude. Yeah. No, so anyway, we've got
So we just alienated the listener that collects nutcrackers. Great job.
Buy the free craft. Just so simple.
Furiously smashing macadamias and swearing at us.
Oh man, these macadamias are so tender you don't even need teeth. But regardless, now we're taking our trip to its logical conclusion, trying to find the very bottom.
Mm-hmm. The bottom of the world until DLC a town.
Yep.
It goes even further down.
Yeah. It's just pits all the way down.
Yeah, but we're just going down. After the after the wrap rows, we have this kind of like top area that's still a little bit man-made. Mm-hmm. As we head further into the gutter, which we don't know a lot about. Like the gutter is a place where people put their trash,
Yeah.
Genetic and otherwise. And, just similar to areas, similar to Blighttown and the Valley of Defilement. It's also, in like one of my kind of lore suppositions, with the mansion in Majula, like it makes sense to me that this is right outside of that. Since there's a good, I think that earlier I'd posited that it's possible that, Aldia was working there at some point. That's where the, giant tomes belong to and everything. I don't remember all of the surrounding suppositions because it's been such a long time.
Yep.
But, having this kind of area, right there where you can just kind of toss, people you don't like, is probably useful.
Undesirables.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, somehow garbage water continues to flow. Like you actually see just huge hunks of refuse going down the sides of the walls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that makes sense because a lot of the enemies that you find in here have Aldia connections in their descriptions in the guide, right?
Yeah,
yeah. But this is where all the detritus comes, similar to a Blighttown or a Valley of Defilement, but it's relatively mild, and you're kind of seeing. In this first little area, this man-made kind of place, the first guards, I guess, which would be these exploding undead citizens, which don't have any knock-on like status effect like the other ones do, but just straight up, do damage to you. Maybe
they're just
damage.
fireballs.
Yeah, they're just fireballs. And then that kind of opens out into scaffolding when you kind of see this, lashed together, platforms and bamboo kind of things. And this is probably your first inkling that something's coming up.
Yeah, we're going to revisit that little landing when we do our New Game Plus episode as well, because there's something kind of significant that can happen there. But for here, it just is kind of out of place. Have either of you guys been able to jump over to that chest that has the shield chime in it?
No.
I don't know that I've ever tried, weirdly enough.
It's tricky. It's real tricky.
I can't make it, and it's such a pain to try it again if you miss, because you land on the ground and then you have to go back up to a bonfire up in the rat nest to make another try. And I just can't get it. Like it seems useful, like a chime that would act as a shield would be pretty useful, but I've never been able to grab it.
Right.
C'est la vie.
Oh well. I mean, I've looked at videos of people doing it, but just never been able to pull it off, which is one of those few rare times.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure some a listener is going to chime in and say, "Oh, here's the way you do it. Step
well,
1, 2, 3."
You jump to it. Like I don't think there's a mystery to it. I just can't pull it off.
I know, but still, somebody's going to offer a great tip about like, oh, you want to line up with this particular seam in the texture and then go because that's what people do.
I was just saying to the person who says, I wasn't answering you. I was answering this imaginary person who doesn't exist.
And see, what you don't know, since none of us have done it, is that you have to answer 5 riddles before you can open the chest. And
there's a quick time event in the air, and you just have to answer the riddles before you land successfully.
Up, down, down.
Yeah.
Oh man, man, oh man.
But, so the scaffolding area, make your way down to the bottom of it. There's a token of spite. Mm-hmm. At the bottom of it. It's kind of interesting. I don't know why it's there, but it's the one way you can get one without actually invading somebody and murdering them.
Right.
So I feel like that's probably the mechanical intent. I don't know a lore one.
Yeah. It's definitely that. So if you want to join the Brotherhood of Blood, you can do so without being a jerk if you're playing a lawful good type of character, and don't want to do that.
Although, why would you if you were playing like? Is there a benefit to the Brotherhood of Blood or the Blooderhood that I don't?
You can buy stuff.
Oh, okay.
Like there's certain pyromancies that are exclusive, certain items are exclusive.
Okay.
There are probably people who just like to duel.
Yeah.
Or
you just want to do all the covenants to get the achievement for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense then. I mean, everything that lands down here, I think that the default answer of this wasn't wanted on the surface can apply. And it works pretty well for that. So like a token of spite would be, there are these assholes who are just interloping between worlds for the sole purpose of murder. So we can probably toss that down here because we want fewer of those up here in the surface land for the sun dwellers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like somebody's murdering days were over.
Yeah.
And then they tossed it into the pit. and then a chest grew around it organically, like sediment.
Yeah, so, I assume that all non-mimic chests are actually just mimic corpses. They waited too long and they starved to death.
Died of old age.
Yep.
So I'm going to be super disappointed if the last weekend of that Magic Majula chest event is not some kind of terrible mimic or monster or something.
Yeah, like an ultra mimic.
Yeah.
That can't be killed and only spawns once. Yeah.
If it's just like a chest that takes up the whole wall, that's like just obviously breathing.
The tongue is hanging out like a carpet.
John, I was hungry.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, you get that here. Unfortunately, there's still light. The threshold of darkness isn't until later, until you find that landing that has all of those creepy little tobacco statues on it.
Yeah. I love and hate those statues.
Yeah.
Like, they work like, it's something that hasn't really happened in Dark Souls where there's like explicitly a turret kind of item, that just, you have to start worrying about, line of sight.
Yeah.
And they set them up in ways where they cover each other. Oftentimes where like if you are trying to smash one, there'll be another one that can see you from an unforeseen angle.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a weird, like between this and Amana, this is the Dark Souls game that started taking like a couple of very small cues from like shooter games.
Yeah.
And, it's really interesting and weird. And the design of these things and the kind of ubiquity of them here and finding them in other places, like I want to know what they're about. And that's one of the things I'm hoping for the DLC. Mm-hmm. To really reveal, because they are everywhere here, even down to like the torch sconces are headless poison statues.
Yeah.
Everything is a poison statue down here.
Definitely. And, when we get to the end of this episode, we're going to talk about the Rotten, who is either repairing or making them. Mm-hmm. So I'm not entirely sure what the connection is there. There's speculation in one of Vati's videos about this area, which is that they represent the Emerald Herald, and that the fact that they spitting poison could poetically be interpreted as telling lies. And so this could be a statement about whether or not you can trust the Emerald Herald. I don't know how much I don't hold truck with that, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think there's really evidence for it. I'm inclined to put a little bit of stock in it just emotionally, because that has been part of my read on the game the whole time, has been that people are too eager to take what the Emerald Herald says at face value, I guess. Yeah. So maybe we'll see in the DLC. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even if other than the idea, like the kind of metaphorical value, there's another supposition we'll get to that he makes in regards to the Rotten that kind of works with him compulsively making these statues. Mm-hmm. So even if it has or lacks that metaphorical meaning, the kind of logical why it's happening makes a sense.
Yeah. And
we'll get to that when we talk about him.
Yeah. I came to like every muscle in my body clenches when I hear that sound that these things
spit?
make. Yeah. Just because, I would just be coming through an area. Like they're set up in such a way that they know how you're going to be like flowing through this. They know how traffic flows through this area. Right.
Mm.
Yeah. And like as a career blue cop, it's more of an issue in Black Gulch than it is here, but those statues are actively annoying to you as an invader because they don't discriminate.
Yeah. Equal opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're talking about like, turrets, this is a weird mechanic to show up. Like, this is also the first area and probably the only area where the torch is, as valuable as you see it here, right?
Yeah.
It never pops up quite in a way, that approaches its usefulness, right?
Yeah. Which I'm kind of like, there's been we've said a lot of words, and there's been a lot of words written about the lighting changes in Dark Souls 2. And, as a gimmick for an area, like if they had never made promises about the torches being important everywhere else, and if there weren't all these signs of their previous importance, just tons of sconces where there don't need to be, I would be fine with one area where it's the gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a pretty strong gimmick. Like it is fun to go through the gutter with this torch and trying to lighting the way and letting that mark your progress in a kind of confusing area, using it as a trail of breadcrumbs and as a source of light. And and being denied a shield with the kind of enemies that show up here, I think that works really well.
Sure.
Like like this is the area that I think that the criticism is more that more areas weren't designed around it rather than this one. I think this is really successful.
Yeah.
In that.
Like, you know, it really just kind of carries the stink of a broken promise. I don't think it was a promise that was really broken. That's probably a pretty strong way to say it. Gamer entitlement, et cetera, but like you can't look at this and then not see everything else where it could have been.
Right, but the promise is with that. Or I'm sorry, I didn't mean. The problem is with where it was offered other places, not so much with it where it's offered here. Is more my point.
Yep.
Yeah, it just featured very prominently in the pre-release promo stuff and all that. So it was something that we sort of expected to be a big part of the game. I think making that trade-off of losing your offhand so you could see, and that just never materializes.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is disappointing. Like I get that part. I just think that it works so well here, you know. So like I don't want to hold it against the gutter.
Oh, for sure.
Because they didn't implement it other places so much.
I had a lot more fun this time through, you know, playing a non-sorcerer character. Because when I was a sorcerer, I could just, you know, cast light and walk through with impunity. However, that rhythm, that kind of enforced friction between both, you know, lighting the torches and kind of keeping that thread unbroken and also avoiding the poison, you know, like just the fact that you were, you know, changing the texture of this area as you pass through was a really huge deal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It also, like, you've got in the notes here, you call this a survival horror area. And like one of the things that makes that interesting is that when you are denying yourself your shield, every once in a while you're going to have to fall back on that and extinguish your torch in order to block. And, so that introduces resource scarcity in the way of flame butterflies. You know, your torch is never going to run out. I don't think anyone has, you know, ever run out of torch in Dark Souls. Like, I wonder if anyone's even seen the animation for what happens when your torch runs out of time. But that's how you unlock the DLC. But I stand in the Black Gulch for 2 hours and 10 minutes. But you know, you have to use this limited supply of flame butterflies to, you know, re-up your torch. Yeah. After you made that trade-off.
Or just hope you can get back to the last torch you lit. That was the big revelation for me because, flame butterflies, I used 2 of these, one to light the Harvest Valley and then the other one to light the, you know, the oil outside of the Lost Sinner, right? Like, oh no, actually, like, this is kind of this weird form of continuity through the area. So I ended up not really using the flame butterfly here unless I really had to. It was kind of fun to make a dash back to the most recently lit torch.
Yeah, which you can only sometimes do. Like, you're going to make some one-way trips.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
like,
you know,
and you get enough flame butterflies where you can. Yeah. Yep.
It sounds like you've tried to cut in a couple times, Vivienne. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No. That I was just kind of listening. I'm kind of not as. I mean, I suppose it's disappointing that the torch didn't have more to do with things. And personally, I actually spent a lot of time using flame butterflies and running around trying to find secrets with it because I kept thinking, well, it's this thing that they use so much in the promo, so obviously they're going to use that to hide the super secret second ending that doesn't exist. And but ultimately, I don't know if I'm super disappointed by it in the end because I feel like that's the sort of thing that sounds cool on paper, but then when you actually get into playing the game, rapidly becomes kind of annoying.
I think I agree with that.
Sort of like the Doom 3 problem that people love to harp on.
Yeah. I agreed with that. Like and we don't know exactly how it would be implemented. I think that that annoyance could be designed around, and we'll never know if that was something that happened or something that they would have done well or not because they opted not to do it.
Yeah. Like if it was just omnipresent throughout the entire game, that would just be annoying. However, if there were, you know, distinct areas in the game where, like, you knew when you were going to a big dark building, like imagine No Man's Wharf before you light the thing at the top, you know, like creating again that horror, you know, like what makes survival horror work, which is the dread of the thing that could possibly happen in the place where you don't, you know what's going to happen. Like I could see if they designed around that kind of like rhythm, like here's the light area, here's the dark area. But yeah, if it was like they were promising and it was just going to be everywhere, that would actually bring monotony to what actually should have brought, you know, this weird, this actually not weird, but great sense of pacing to it, right? Yeah,
and there's still hints to the presence of that stuff too, like, you know, when you're in the crypt and there's that segment where you can't have a light going, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so you make your way, you kind of fall to the first bonfire here. You don't have to. Like, this area, I have a hard time like getting I feel like there are probably still things here I haven't found. And it is hard to explore. The map for this area is a nightmare, even in the guide. Like, it is very hard to make out. And it kind of sets it up so you'll hopefully fall to the first bonfire, but you could very easily avoid that collapsing portion of floor and not find a bonfire, at all, really. The second bonfire is very well hidden in this area. But luckily you do, and you're kind of drawn to it, like a moth to the flame, so to speak. So you can kind of make your way towards it and kind of fall in the pit, but it's by no means mandatory.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate just because of the established rhythm in this. And, that's also something, the idea that there are things here that you haven't discovered. The lighting serves that to a certain extent, which is when everything is concealed in darkness and you can only see as far as your torch goes. This area, like in total, like all the places you can go, it's actually much smaller than you would imagine it would be, right?
Yeah.
Like everything is kind of collapsed in on itself, whereas when nothing is lit up and when you haven't really been through it, you're imagining this is an entire like Denis-like cavern from Myst, where it's just everything is just covered with this scaffolding, like a wasp's nest or something, right? And the idea that this is a 2 bonfire area with no NPCs or really no boss in this named area proper, it actually is remarkably small and remarkably quick outside of that friction they put in with the light and the poison statues.
Right. Like, once you know what to do, you can fall to where you need to get really quickly.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the enemies that show up. Like, we're not going to kind of go in sequence because of that nature that we just talked about, but there are a couple. Yeah, because there's no sequence. But there are a couple of highlights, roadside attractions on the way. And, one of the things is, the people you're going to be fighting, kind of least noteworthy from a mechanical or challenge standpoint are just the regular prisoners, the hollows here, who I think look a little bit like Riff Raff from Rocky Horror. They're balding half mullets.
Yeah, kind of bloated a little bit.
Yeah, they got like sloppy little guts.
Yeah. Well, what's great about them is like you're in their house. This is their house, right?
Run's house.
Yeah, this is Run's.
Whose house? Run's house.
But like even more so, like Valley Defilement was better than Blighttown about this, in that Valley Defilement felt a little bit more like dwellings, but you're actually seeing like carpets. Which, I mean, who throws out like and just tosses down a pit and a luxurious red carpet?
There's so much cat pee on that carpet. like sweet Shelkior fucking Shelkior the shit out of that carpet, and that is why it's in that pit. That is why you throw a carpet down under the curve.
Might as well be haunted.
Yeah, he's haunted by the ghost of cat ammonia. Like male unspayed cat.
Oh, God. Yeah.
So weird that cats can pee and they can also spray. Like, I feel like that's kind of unfair as a genetic advantage that they have. Like, I can't spray. When I pee on something, it's just gross. I don't get to claim anything.
Have you tried?
Like, put my thumb over the tip like a hose? Is that...
You can do anything with practice, Gary.
Yeah. I should try that.
I mean, don't stoop right to jealousy. Try and rise to it.
Yeah, I would give myself a UTI so quickly if I was like literally sticking my thumb over my front hole and trying to spray onto something.
Yeah, but again, the idea holds here. You're the invading force, right? And anybody who might have talked to you if they weren't entirely hollow, they're just trying to, defend their own little corner of heaven here.
Yeah. And then there's dogs as well.
like hellhounds, like Aldea hellhounds.
Yep.
Yeah. And these are the same dogs that show up later in Aldea's Manor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The corrosive, like the ones that are just hanging out in the corrosion pit.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is kind of a through line of corrosive, the source of corrosion in this area, between these dogs that their natural environment or their breeding environment or what have you is that big corrosive pit, and then the gigantic ant queen, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Which again, I don't quite, I don't know how it fits together, but it is, they're next to each other and are the same thing. So it's got that kind of Dark Souls like, but but I also don't get it, which I don't know if that's indicative of like a Dark Souls 2 thing where the connections are there, or if it's a DLC thing or what.
Yeah.
But
good.
I sort of see people making the leap to the assumption that the monsters down here that show up in Aldia's are discarded experiments, and I kind of wonder if maybe it's the other way around.
Oh, that they're dredged up?
Like if Aldia is dredging these things from dark places, and I don't know. I don't. Dark Souls 2 lore is not my forte, but
yeah. I mean, it's a little bit troubling because like one of the major sources that we have for monster lore is the official guide, but I'm not quite sure how official that is. I tend to defer to the in-game text about it as opposed to whatever some kind of secondary publication is going to be, just because everything can kind of change, or that can be like a weird translation. There's the idea like that corrosive ant, like that is from Hugo, or the juice as I call it. Right. And everything else, like there are hints of where these things come from, and, kind of outright statements that everything was from Aldia and tossed down here from the mansion or otherwise. Into the memory hole, and I'm not quite sure how trustworthy that is. Right?
I think the reason what maybe you're reacting to, like I feel like most of the stuff in the guide is probably fairly trustworthy, but it's not satisfying because it's so neat, and it's such an omni explanation for things.
Yeah,
like so many things are supposed to be just kind of cast-offs from Aldia. Like Aldia is a wizard did it of Dark Souls 2, and that's a little bit unsatisfying.
Yeah,
it's not a fun answer.
Yeah, it seems to answer a lot of small questions without necessarily addressing larger ones. Like, we know all these things about Aldia and what he's done and, like, where his experiments have ended up, but we ultimately still don't know his fate, which there's a lot of speculative space there, but...
Yeah. Again, DLC. Come on, DLC.
Krusty will be here. You'll see. Oh, man. Yeah, but you're kind of wandering around here, moving us forward just a little bit through people's homes, just rattling their pots and pans around. And also they're strangely just their meat hung out to dry or age or cure. See a lot of hanging meat. It's kind of like it's like Rocky. Yeah, rotting it down. What if hollows could only eat rotten food, and that's why they're pissed off? Like they don't have the enzymes. It's like this sucks.
They're like vultures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Supposedly very clean creatures, but I don't believe it for a second.
They vomit as a self-defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Which is real gross.
It kind of sounds like me.
Yeah, it doesn't seem very like a clean creature. Like, even if they weren't the ugliest bird in the world, like the fact that they can throw up rancid meat onto you, like if you try to pet it. That's not good.
Well, I mean, okay, so who's to blame here? The vulture, or you for trying to pet a vulture?
Not the vulture. Like,
Okay.
I'm man, and creatures are my dominion to pet.
Yeah. God said so.
Yeah. Go forth and let pets be pet.
Go forth and pat.
Yeah, pet all of my creatures.
Yeah.
Go forth and find out who wants a belly rub. They all want a belly rub, my son. They all want a belly rub.
Who wants a belly rub? You do.
Yep.
You do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's this little like side cave in the wall where an old friend shows back up, right?
Melinda?
Melinda the Butcher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I don't think there's ever going to be like a prepare to cry on Melinda. I think it's just, we got to have a butcher.
There's always a man. There's always a lighthouse. Yeah. There's always a cannibal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, well. Zip lines. I've never found a zip line in this place, but everybody alludes to them happening. So
I've never used one. I didn't even realize they existed in the other zone in which they exist until after I'd beaten the game. Yeah. I just somehow missed those completely and was just doing some jumping and falling and
Yeah. I found them. Like I found this one, and it's a really useful shortcut. The one that's here, but it's not really necessary either. Like if you know the way through, I can get through as quickly, using it or not using it. Mm-hmm. But somebody set up some like Adventure Time mountain zip lines in the gutter. It's a little bit odd.
Huh. Yeah, there's also Havel's place, which you have to open up with a forgotten key, which you find later. But I don't feel like coming back here later, so we can talk about it now, I guess. Again, somebody wanted to hide him away, or his artifacts, right? And this was put here around the time of the War of the Giants.
Yeah, potentially. And the idea of like the bonfire in the Grave of the Saints that's called Harvol's resting place. Like we touched on that a little bit last episode, how that might be a corruption of language kind of thing. Like that's this is where his armor ended up, but that's actually was supposed to be Havel's resting place up there, and just kind of changed throughout the ages.
Yeah. And this is a really good example of one of the places in the game where I was unsure whether it was something I should be considering from a storytelling perspective or something that was just there to be like a reference back to the first game, like an Easter egg for people who explore thoroughly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And like there are areas where they do those kind of Easter egg style things, and I feel like they could potentially have a little bit more significance. But this is not one of them.
No.
Like this felt like this felt fan servicey to me.
No.
So.
I mean, a little bit less so than when he pops up later.
Yeah.
Or a little bit more
well,
so.
That does not feel fan servicey to me.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that when you're dark diving.
Yeah.
I like that. This felt a little bit stranger though.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, the description on his equipment kind of goes back to what I love about the equipment descriptions in this game, which is the lack of understanding about what this stuff, was or meant. So it says, Havel either was a person or it was a kingdom that fell to a barbaric war, which kind of possibly could have been both.
Yeah.
Depending on your the license that you take. And also some of the descriptions on certain hexes reference the rock. Havel the Rock, which kind of implies that his legacy and kind of this, his legacy as this person who delved into the occult to try and betray, his king, led to this kind of heretical form of magic actually going out and, finding more purchase than it otherwise would have if he survived in, in myth like that.
Sure.
Yeah. So that provides just a little bit more justification for him showing up. I'm not sure why here or why quite as literally as he does. Yeah.
That Ant Queen, how disappointing is it, or how disappointed were you when you put on the Ring of Whispers and found nothing from the Ant Queen? Like, didn't that seem like that was what it was made for?
That was another one of those items that I just wanted to run through the whole game, poking into corners and trying to talk to Hellhouse.
Maybe there's a dust mite.
Yeah.
That painting. The giant curse painting in Tranquilite Castle.
Oh.
Yeah.
The corrosive ant queen serves a kind of the same purpose as the fair lady, which is she cures poison.
Yeah.
I mean, at the expense of your equipment, so you got to be naked around her. Maybe she's a perv ant.
Yeah. And you have to, get up to her poisoned without all of your many ways to cure poison yourself. Like, I think that it's just, it's an interesting idea that she is entirely benevolent and actually has a mechanical bonus, but I can never imagine using it. In a million years. Like, and one of the things, like, this was a real crazy experience for me when I first ran into her, because I was so kind of terrified of this gigantic ant queen that I killed her from afar with a bow and arrow, and she didn't move or react or anything. So I thought, like, oh, she can't get out. I'm being smart and killing this boss from a distance. And then when I came through a second time, and she just is fine, content to chill. I felt pretty bad, and also. Like, I like the kind of mystery of what she's doing here. Like, again, the guide says she's a cast off from Aldea, and a little bit about how this is where the Jugo the Jugo corrosive pots and corrosive gear is related.
So I'm going to speculate about something. I think maybe that that similarity that you detected between her and the Fair Lady in the first game could actually be intentional, because there's a weird. For this to be the area that we associate with Nito, which we'll get to in a little bit, there's a lot of pyromancy stuff in these two areas and a lot of fire. There's oil pits in the Black Gulch. It's kind of a weird through line to the area that doesn't seem to fit with the great soul that you get from the boss. So that could have been intentional. I mean, the pyromancer set is laying on the ground somewhere around here, I think. The dark pyromancy flame.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Hidden away in a pot.
And those exploding undead that we see toward, near the Lost Center and here, pretty much.
Yeah. I'll buy it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm trying. Yep. Yeah. I'm just trying to reconcile it because the old witch's soul shows up in the Lost Sinner in New Game Plus, and like each of these is kind of neatly divided up as the flame. So I'm just trying to draw connections between that and this, right?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be so direct that it's actually there. Like I think that like it can be a little bit of this could be another one of those thematic nods. Since this area has so much in common with Blighttown.
Yeah.
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 Which, and if they were trying to get rid of pyromancy, like pyromancy has absolutely no role in any of the story that happens here that I've seen so far. Right?
Well, the reason why it has no role in the story is because it's accepted now.
Yeah.
It has as much role as sorcery does. Mm-hmm. Like it is whenever you talk to a wizard character or when you talk to Rosabeth, it is just another way to do magic.
Yeah.
It's no longer has that kind of stigma attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
And such. So the idea of it, someone trying to dispose of pyromancy, I don't necessarily buy. The idea of someone trying to dispose of like dark pyromancy, or there being like a variant of it that is you are more powerful when you're hollowed, like that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not pyromancy in general, but this kind of specific brand of it. I don't think there are any pyromancies, like any spells down here, but that may not be true. Is there, Kole, you have a silent keyboard. Is there is there the pyromancy that is the like the poison fog, or isn't there like a fog or a mist?
Yeah, I believe that there is. Let me look here very quickly, which is to say dark fog shows up here as well.
But that's a hex.
Yes.
Right? Previously, however, in Dark Souls 1, that was a pyromancy.
Mm-hmm.
A pyromantic effect.
Yeah, and the fog pyromancies come from the rat bosses, which are kind of in this neighborhood, so associated with this stuff.
This hex is regarded as a poison due to its outward symptoms, but in fact, the mist eats away at the target's inner essence, just the traits that led to the prohibition of hexing.
Yeah, so maybe like hexing, that kind of lends itself to this idea of there being, hexing being not only just dark sorcery, but also being this kind of like purification of pyromancy, where the elements of pyromancy that were troubling and the reason why it was so regarded with such suspicion in Dark Souls 1 have been kind of relegated to hexes and separated out. And sometimes in this case, literally tossed into a pit. Have your poison.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to look here. So this particular one, I think, is cast from a catalyst, specifically like a staff. Yep, catalyst staff. So how they manage to separate it from needing the flame. Although I guess all of it is kind of Dumbo's feather, right?
Yeah, like and all of hexes, even if they have the same effect, like you don't use flame for it.
Right.
So like I have not found any significance in which hexes you need staffs for and which ones you need chimes for.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's maybe more of a gameplay kind of thing.
Yeah,
like
that's what I think.
I actually just rolled up, so today was a work from home day, a little bit slower. Oh boy, what am I admitting to on air? So I rolled up my first Hexcaster, so I could be ready for the DLC when it comes out on the PC version, right? Because I'm only buying the shit once. And managed to get some of my first hexes. I think that the only significance is like if it is a restorative or if it is a spell that only applies to you as a person, then it's a chime. But those are far fewer in number than the catalyst ones, which are offensive, right? The like Resonant Soul, which is the real OP hex, is a chime hex. Okay.
And all of the area effect ones are chime. Not all of them, some of them. Like it does seem like a real even split.
Okay.
As somebody who has the hex, collecting every hex achievement.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was really just based on my first blush. So
yeah, it would make sense, but it's not it doesn't actually bear out.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I will go back to my wrong corner.
It's okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Just it's an interesting idea that just doesn't have to be true. So second bonfire, which is super hidden, as we said, you kind of have to bash through this wall, and all of the walls look like you can bash through them.
Yeah.
They're just old wood. I have a sword, you idiots! Like, why can't I get through this? But there's just one that you can to get to the second bonfire. Which once you kind of gotten to the second bonfire, you don't really need.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can find it, you don't need it because you're so close to the bottom.
For sure.
which the bottom of this kind of mirrors the top in the, like, this kind of more set scaffolding and ladder system, similar to when we first go in here, and actually gets us down to the ground floor where there are some people lounging around and a couple items of note.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're familiar with the ancient board game Snakes and Ladders, it is just ladders and ladders.
Yes, ladders and ladders.
Yeah,
no
all the snakes went to Sen. So we had to make do with what we had, right? Yeah, I've never been able to figure this out. It's so confusing.
The area?
Well, I mean, just like the up and down kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I found the Great Club, which I think that in terms of the people that I talk to in real life, about Dark Souls, this is unanimously their favorite weapon.
It's great.
Yeah. So I don't know why it's down here aside from, just Smash. Maybe this is the Rotten and his simplistic.
It's a big stick. You could pretty much find it anywhere.
Yeah. It's like a log, something like that. It kind of seems pointless to throw it down a pit.
Yeah.
But you find this stuff down here. Also, like, so you mentioned those arterial pots kind of happen to have something to do with Hugo. I forget. Do those pop up anywhere else? The ones with the corrosion inside?
Not that look like that.
Yeah. They're real gross looking. They look like hearts. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And unless there is an orange soapstone warning, you're going to try and roll through them, and you're just going to lose all your shit. So.
Yep. And luckily, there's a bonfire right afterwards. Like,
yeah.
It's nice though, as it feels like a clear warning or guarding, kind of thing. Like it is a clear demarcation between this area and the next one.
Yeah.
Like these are these are literally heart-shaped things filled with corrosion. Like, and if one were given to more kind of obvious symbolic wankery, like this seems like a stack of hearts that that are actually acid.
Yeah.
Like it seems like it is ripe with that.
I mean, I'm given to that. I was about to go there, but okay.
Go there. Go for it.
No. I mean, just like it's pretty obvious. So there's really not much more to say about it.
Yeah.
Aside from like that is pretty powerful symbolism, right? I mean, powerful on the face of it. And then it's like, oh, who put those there? Why are they there? Oh, they're just trying to like weaken you up so they can get you, in front of those poison things with impunity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, probably, the Rotten put them there, or who, ultimately became the Rotten, which would make sense for most of the stuff we're kind of finding on the way down here.
Yeah.
Because we'll talk about him in a minute, but and this isn't really spoilers because there's no spoilers on the show really, but like the supposition that the Rotten, his, human form was, Pharos is something that I think I buy, given the proximity to the Grave of the Saints, him kind of constructing those traps and such, and then him, constructing these poison statues. But the difference with the doors of Pharos where they don't do anything, like they're inactive, and here where they actually literally spit poison, and then kind of given the Rotten dropping the Pharos Lockstone and having the little shoulder buddy who, is like Wade from US Acres, who does everything that the Rotten does. I buy that. Like this being him, exploring, kind of continually going down from the Grave of the Saints and ultimately, coming across Nito's soul and becoming this just a gestalt of gross corpses and homeless people.
Well, I mean that and the fact that if you buy the implication that the Rat King's little human buddy, the one who proved to him that humanity was not all bad, if you buy that was Pharos, then okay, cool. You can see that he was headed down here, and the fact that this is the place where all the downtrodden end up. He had an inclination to help people, right? And so these are the people who are most in need, and you could see that he would have ended up down here, found a Lord's soul, and then kind of gave way to this obsession, right? Which is kind of how a lot of this stuff manifests, right? Either, later on with Seldora, with the spiders, or with the Lost Sinner, and, basically scrawling her repentance around the entire cell. Right, like you could see,
like her compulsively writing the same thing over, and him compulsively creating these statues as like the last thing he remembers as being a human. As his mind diffuses among the grand balloon of his body makeup.
For sure. Yeah. So I wasn't entirely sure I bought that theory until just right now. So,
It's-
with
I mean, I know
the
it's-
obsession kind of thing. Yeah, no,
It's
definitely.
not for sure true, but it feels
Yeah.
right to me.
I could have seen him being drawn into the conglomeration. Because like, oh, you kill, like, why is it just his left arm that drops the Ferris Lockstone? These Ferris Lockstones are everywhere. Like, why is that significant? But like seeing that connection, I can totally get it. How about you, Viv?
I'm kind of into it, if only because I think there's a kind of neat symmetry towards having all the Lord Soul bosses be someone important from the lore that we don't really have a direct way to piece like that. All the speculation about the Lost Sinner and the Old Iron King being the Belfry couple, things like that. I'm inclined to believe them on weak evidence because they make the game story and lore feel holistic to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is one of those, although I find it really curious that what we take to be the head of the Rotten, I don't know why we're talking so much about the Rotten right now. We're kind of ahead of schedule, but it's like a cage or something. And if he's down there helping people, there's a kind of sinister cast to the design of the Rotten.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't
There's
know.
so much I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I had to swallow. I was trying not to cut you off, and then my body decided to swallow before I could talk. There's so much of like when we do this lore wankery, where like I think there's tons of power to like choosing, in an absence of actual proof, choosing the thing that feels better. Mm-hmm. Like I have no problem with that when it comes to this kind of work. Like there are probably people who believe that there is more objective truth to this game than I do. Yeah. And if I'm proven wrong, that's fine. Like I think it's okay to make a decision that feels good if you're willing to consider new evidence.
Yeah.
And this feels right to me. And if there's new evidence that disproves it, great. Like I'll consider that as well. But until then, this feels right.
In the lack of evidence, I will gravitate towards whatever feels like the strongest statement.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Which is, we have evidence from the previous game that these souls, this great power, manifests as obsession, and the people who find them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that feels right to me. And I will probably defer to concrete evidence, but in the lack of that, like I can't. I don't think anybody can be blamed for drawing their own connection or choosing their own branch of whatever the implication was, especially when the branches of those implications don't really have an awful lot of gravity towards them. It doesn't matter a lot or doesn't impact a lot of other parts of the game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's talk Gulch.
Let's talk Gulch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is one of the bigger maps in Halo 1, made for snipers. In Halo 2, they added some of the crazy little catapult kind of things.
Nerd.
Yep. Nerd talking about one video game for 30 seconds.
I was late to recording because I got wrapped up writing about THACO. So there's an implicit irony.
Yeah, and I just had a legit article I made for pay at my full-time job where I was calling the notion of Tau Day bullshit. We are all nerds here.
Mm. Yeah. It's just a flavor of nerd that I don't have any experience with. Like Halo, that's not cool. You know what's cool?
Jock.
Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, you jock. You think you're some kind of muscle hunk because you like Halo instead of Baldur's Gate?
I like both. You can like a bunch of things.
I know. It was a joking.
So
I know.
So I was late because I was doing really awesome jumps on my skateboard, and I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about.
Yeah, I was smoking cigarettes with cool girls. So
yeah.
Down at the bowling alley.
Yeah, down at the cool
it's
bowling
cool
alley.
Again.
Grabbing runoff pee. I hate that term, but I can't stop saying it.
I'm a pee like pussy.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. That's what the term stands for.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's gross, but I don't know what it is for some reason.
Well,
it is always
pee
funny
also
to me.
stands for urine.
Yeah, like runoff pee is a totally different thing. I guess it works better in print.
It's not like we've worked in the audio medium for 3 years. Oh man. Yeah. So Black Gulch, it is the Riddler's paradise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really looks really neat. Mm-hmm. Like I love the way this area looks, and it is so One of the things I like about this area, and I think I talked about it a little bit in the last episode, is similar to the gutter. It's something that Dark Souls hasn't really done before, which is a straight up gauntlet. Mm-hmm. You know, like the closest thing, even though it's way worse, is a little bit like the copy paste Nightmare of Lost Izalith, where you're fighting all those dragon butt things. But this works much better. Like, it is almost like an obstacle course for like undead training. Mm-hmm. You know, dodging the tar pits and, you know, dodging the poison that's being spit at you and such.
Mm-hmm. I guess the first half of Sins has that sort of like Nickelodeon Guts vibe to it.
Yeah. Well, this is like organic Nickelodeon Guts, sure. Like organic Sins.
Organic Guts.
Mm-hmm. So it's the aggro crag, is what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah, whereas Sins is more Legend of the Hidden Temple. Am I right, 90s kids? Take this quiz.
Yep. Few shows you'll only remember if you saw them.
Yeah.
Top two Nickelodeon shows that you'll remember if you know what they are.
God damn. Okay, so I know this is the second recording this week where I've made mention of the click hole, but did you guys see the how long will you survive the chamber quiz?
It's amazing.
Oh my god! Like, I made everybody at work take it.
Yeah. How long did you get?
30 minutes. I'm a noob.
2 hours, bro.
Yeah, 2 hours for me. I saw a friend that had 5 hours. I was impressed.
Yeah, my desk mate got 5 hours.
He lied because I was honest about how slow and fat I am.
Oh yeah,
the thing.
Yeah,
like
well,
still, you know.
My mistake was I took the map. I think the amulet is more powerful than we believe.
I took the amulet.
Ah, damn it.
Yeah,
and I took the knife. I'm proud with this.
That's still pretty good. It is real good. It'll be in the show notes, obviously, and everyone should do it because it's very funny.
The sightless seeker.
I love the sightless seeker.
The child who is not a child. You know, I'm just whatever.
Yeah.
But
it's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a gauntlet, and even though this is probably geometrically, I'm not sure which one applies, so I'll say both. You know, even though this is one of the smaller areas in the game outside of the Shrine of Winter, like, it takes a little while to get through on your first blush. Once you realize that if you roll fast enough past these banks of statues, you're gonna avoid them. So then it becomes just a straight up rush until you find the really, really well hidden second bonfire.
Yeah, well, there's tons of hidden things here. It's like it encourages you to run through it while simultaneously rewarding exploration. Mm-hmm. So, you know, once you know it, you can just kind of dash through and, like, you know, one, you have to learn that you can dash through. Two, the big thing I learned is that if I was out of poison curing things, eating 2 life gems will do the same thing. Yeah. So just, you know, nab 2 life gems and you'll heal faster than you die and be fine. But there's tons of hidden stuff down here. You just have to look for it, and it's really kind of neat. Like, you know, so if you decided to kind of go through and just slowly kill every statue, and which is much easier if you have a bow and arrow to get them from a distance. But like, just slowly kill every statue. You will find cool hidden stuff, including like a lot of it that's really story important. Like, all 3 hidden things down here are all really significant. Okay. The first one with the passage that leads to Lucatiel down below. Yeah. So, and it also like skips a large portion of the level. Like, finding that passage will give you a head start.
I just realized I've never found Lucatiel. Here,
she's underground.
Yeah.
It's the first hidden passage off of, you know, where you fall off a cliff. It doesn't look like you should be able to, you know, survive.
Yeah. And that has nothing to do with Grendel or the giants.
Like, no, that's a different hill.
Okay.
This is another torch spot too, because those hills that you drop down on, those ledges you drop down on, are actually almost impossible to see. If the second one isn't impossible flat out, like, without having a torch.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's a little bit tricky just because the phosphorescent, you know, kind of goo that's around that's lighting this area up makes it seem like you don't need a torch. Mm-hmm. We only talked about it a little bit, but how awesome is that, and like unsettling is the little run up into this area with the line of the glowing statues along the left wall. Like, I really love that. Like,
like
it
when I first saw it, I was worried that they would start doing like toxic damage or something.
Yeah,
that would be a real bitch.
Yeah. I just like that they're evolving. This is a more primal version, or an even further corrupted version of these things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that bioluminescent glow, again, you know, hiding these hidden complexities. So like, this is probably the 3rd time we've encountered Lucatiel at this point. Yeah.
This is the penultimate Lucatiel.
Yeah. And she is well on her way to being hollow by now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is one of, it's not quite the sad, the sad ending for her that we'll get to in a month or so. Yeah. 2 months. But this is she's losing it at this point. I think this might be the one where I know she says it significantly in the last encounter, but this one might be the first one where she hints something about like wanting you to remember her name. Mm-hmm. Which is pretty sad.
Yeah.
There's also some kind of, if I remember right, some kind of thing to suggest she's losing her mind and implying that she might, or that she's either worried she's going to attack you or that she would be willing to if she thought it would help.
Yeah, she does say that, I think, as early as this. She definitely, she says, if that would actually save my mind, I wouldn't hesitate, and you wouldn't either.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is nice. You know where both of you stand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, if it stopped me from going hollow, I would attack both of you.
Well, yeah. I mean, it sucks going hollow, so...
Yeah, I figured we're probably all on the same page there.
Yeah. Yeah. So here, looking at the third, I found my thoughts growing hazy, my memories are fading, oldest first, the curse is doing its work upon me. She mentions her brother here, if this is the third time you found her, which is important for later. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Solid bro, Lucatiel. Worthless mechanically. Terrible fighter.
Yeah, like more of a liability than anything.
Yeah. Seems like a good dude.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the enemies here, because they're all unique.
Yeah, this is
like,
a very
you're not gonna
high
run into
density
them.
of different things. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got the Razorback Nightcrawlers, which are the gigantic worms that jump out of the wall to kind of push you off, and block your passage, which are a little bit like the worms in the Demon Ruins.
Yeah, there's another connection to the pyromancy stuff. The bugs.
Yeah, cool. I think you said 3-2. They are a little bit like that as well.
Yeah, 2-2.
Or 2-2. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, except that they don't pop up perpendicular to your plane of motion and block you that way. Like, they straight up just knock you off of the chasm.
Yep.
Yeah. There's also what I think is one of the most unsettling enemy designs in the game, which are these crazy little, oh my gosh, the Coal Tar Darksuckers.
Is that their official name in like the guide?
It's either Coal Tar or Darksuckers. I like putting it together.
Yeah.
They emerge from these pits, which you can set on fire, like if you're using any kind of fire weaponry. But yeah, they look like big serpent hands that have crazy radial maws of sunflower teeth in their palm, and will give chase to you in a very persistent fashion. I've died to them trying to go up and get the shottle and the divine blessings and whatnot in that crazy not crazy, inconsequential left-hand path of underwhelming weapons and items.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then so kind of moving on to the second hidden thing, the third one just being a bonfire, which is worth noting and worth grabbing. But kind of more significantly is this hidden cliff that goes down to the second forgotten chamber, which is where Dark Dive, if you have the is this where you get the key, or you need the key to get in here?
Well,
and get to
it is a locked door. And you get the key to this chamber from the giants that are like immediately afterwards. So this requires 2 trips down here.
Yeah, but the giants are even more hidden. Like when you think that you find this locked door, and then you fall further, to the lowest point, in the game that you can get to.
Yeah.
To where these giants are hidden away, and in order to get this key and fight these giants and get the soul for a later mechanical benefit. But it's really interesting. We think that the giants are gone. We don't run into any living giants in current time, and there are a couple of them that are hiding out down here.
Yeah,
and I don't know what they're doing exactly.
Nor do I. Like, all I can think of is because they have the Forgotten Key, and the Forgotten Key opens Havel's tomb, they had to be associated somewhat in terms of we needed to get rid of both of these, and because they're giants, it might have been Vendrick who did it. So that
they also open the way to the Dark Diver.
True. Yeah. Which again, association with the Dark and Havel, right?
Yeah. And if they are literally refugees, from the war, this would be a good place to hide.
Yeah.
Oh, and we also know, if part of our thesis about these areas is that Aldea is leaving stuff down here. We know that Aldea has been hacking up giants.
Christ, has he? Like, there's a real like Cambodia pit, like in near there that we'll talk about. So these guys could very much be, escapees from the underground railroad that gets giants out from
the
Maldives.
way underground railroad.
Yeah, the underground. Not to make light of something very serious.
Yeah. What I will say, the Underground Railroad Freedom Museum is fucking great, and is right here in my city. So go there if you get a chance.
What I will say
is this thing unrelated, except to maybe take a little bit of the awfulness away from that, maybe making light of this thing we weren't making light of. So there we go. Yeah.
So we're in favor of the real Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Officially.
Well, we're in favor of this one too. I feel like the Giants are pretty good guys.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. And so like mechanically, this is a really tough fight. These two giants.
Yeah.
Really, really lousy lock-on range, pitch dark in there. You can cheese it by ducking into an alcove and hitting them with range weapons, but if you're fighting melee, you're more or less fucked. And these guys have tons of hit points. Very, very tricky fight.
Yeah. The fact that there's two of them means that they could ultimately reproduce. No, just makes it so you have to do some stick and run kind of stuff. Yeah. And you're not going to find these guys again until much later. But it really is kind of a revelation at this point because, hey, the first boss you probably defeat is the last quote unquote giant, right?
Yeah.
So something's up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they give you the forgotten key, and I think like the giant ring +1, which I never really used that much. What's weird is that there's an elevator that leads out of here, and I'm not sure if that was a gameplay convenience or if that was something to do with maybe kind of wanting an expeditionary force down to this point somewhere in the future. I have no
the elevator.
For that.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's really striking visually because you go up and the walls are lined with poison statues.
Yeah. As
you go up, it looks really, really cool, but I don't know. I assume it's just to help get you out because how else are you going to get out?
Yeah.
You fell down here.
I would have liked, not liked, it would have been annoying, but if it was a Homeward Bone kind of spot, like, yes, this is a terminus on a path that nobody ought to have traveled.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been, narratively significant to me, not gameplay significant.
Yeah. We find, you can use that key to get access to the first that we're going to run into.
Yeah.
Of the, Dark Diver Gondal.
You said the second earlier. Is there another one you can get to before this?
You can. Well, it depends on if you do this first or if you do like the Shaded Woods first.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
So we did this first, but I think that in my head canon, it's the second one.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about when we talk about the Abyss and stuff. We have a wrap up episode before the ending. We're going to talk about kind of memories and doing the Abyss. So we'll talk a little bit more about the Covenant of the Dark, the Pilgrims of the Dark Covenant. At that point.
Yeah. The Abyss takes a significant backseat in this whole narrative. So Grandal, I'm not sure if he means more than what, he kind of presents on the face or less. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I want him to mean more.
Oh, me too.
Like, I like him. And, every day I'm dark diving, like, me in the Abyss. Like, I love Hexes. I love the Abyss. Something about these games makes me want to be a real monster. And go in for all of that stuff. So,
yeah.
I like him a lot. I like his voice actor.
Yeah.
Like I just like the way he speaks. And the first time I ran into him, it was so enigmatic, and like the idea that, what am I not doing that this guy won't, kind of unlock his secrets, and why is he by this cool portal that is the same portal I teleported into this world on? It was just very
I never noticed that connection.
Yeah. Super intriguing in a way that like just lit me up.
And I don't know what it is, maybe it's the way he speaks, maybe has something to do with his silhouette, which is me descending totally into crazy territory trying to make sense of this confusing game. But he always kind of recalled the serpents to me for some reason, like the primordial serpents. I don't know, he's kind of similar to Kath, I guess, in a sense, because of how you find him, like hidden away, and I don't know.
Like as a plotting tempter?
Yeah, as a tempter, as somebody who was kind of trying to draw you into the Abyss in the way that Koth did in the first game.
I'm trying to figure out what the significance is of both him and Huntsman's Cops Hex caster guy. What's his name? Wanderer.
Falcon.
Falcon the Wanderer. Both of them sitting in disproportionately ornate chairs for where you find them. I know that with, Mr. Dark Diver guy, it's it is a wheelchair. Like he is so enfeebled as to not be able to ambulate on his own volition. But yeah, that is a weird, I don't know, visual cue given how the game ends.
Like the idea that maybe kind of flirting with the dark, weakens you.
Yeah.
And Dark Diver Grandel has been doing it forever. He literally cannot walk anymore. Falcon can walk. If you hit him, he stands up.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just more comfortable to sit.
It's a great equalizer from the mightiest king to the lowliest
Everyone enjoys
peasant.
a good sit.
Yeah.
And there is probably as a consequence of that ending thing and what you're ultimately pursuing at the end of the game, there really is a weird motif with chairs in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the only difference between a chair and a throne is how much gold is involved.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is a game about sitting.
The only hard part is getting up.
Yeah.
Dark sits. That's what, Gary, call a doctor if you're having dark sits.
It's very appropriate because I hate standing and walking.
Oh man, it's sad because these Dark Souls games are losing relevance in a workplace that is more and more dominated by the standing desk.
I speak for you. I have never seen one of those in person. I think that is an Epiphio thing.
They are quite nice, and also that is my place of employment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk Rotten.
Yeah, let's talk Rotten.
Something we neglected to mention, just because it just reminded me of it in the world of ambient noise, is that there's a heartbeat that you hear throughout this entire
It's
thing.
fucking annoying.
Yeah, it's super spooky. But if you stand outside the Rotten's fog gate, you can hear him moaning and crying.
Mm-hmm. Or his component
really nice
parts
touch.
moaning and crying, wailing and gnashing teeth and rending garments.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And you go in and you get this really great little cutscene of him attempting to fix or build one of these poison statues, and failing. You get this idea that maybe his parts are just too clumsy at this point to have the kind of articulation he needs or used to have to make this stuff. Yeah. And then he rages at you.
And the part of me that just wishes I could draw connections better than I do, I want to go back and watch the cutscene again to determine if the arm that he's using to try and fix that is the same one that you cut off to get the Pharaoh's Lockstone.
It is his right arm.
It is his right arm. Okay.
Yeah. So, which is the one with the shoulder that has the dude that gives you the Pharaoh's Lockstone.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Now I am not wondering anymore.
Yeah. He and he is made up of corpses and people. Maybe not necessarily corpses, but that's the first thing I thought.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was like Castlevania boss. He looked like the Grand Flune Castlevania boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really creepy. However, not as complicated of a boss fight as I would hope. The craziest thing about him to me is his arena, which is filled with this burning tar. Right. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, his moveset is kind of limited. Right. Yeah,
he's a breeze.
Yeah.
In Whip Fest, I needed souls and ended up new game plussing him twice. And had no problem beating him with a whip.
He is actually, if you're trying to finish Lucatiel's quest successfully and get her gear without resorting to murder, he is definitely the boss I would recommend repeating with Bonfire Acetic, both because the bonfire is real close and because it's pretty easy to keep her alive if you have a ranged attack and let her tank him and just sort of go to town while she's doing that.
Yeah. Either Flexile Sentry is an easier boss. She just likes to walk off.
Yeah, it's a bigger pain in the ass to redo that area, I think.
Yeah.
It's also kind of relatively the shortest run up that she has, too.
Yeah.
You can control the variables that would possibly kill her here, whereas you can't with Flexile. I mean,
the run up to Smelter Demon is literally a step. But
that's true, but also it's a Smelter Demon.
Yeah.
So I remove that from any consideration of ever playing that again. So
I have never successfully had her survive the Smelter Demon fight. Ugh. Not a single time.
I just did on accident in Whipfest just because I summoned another bro. Like you summon another human player and she'll do okay.
Don't shut up, Gary.
or don't. Like the first time I played through these games, like I try not to summon human players. But Whipfest breaks all the rules because whips suck and it's hard to fight things with them. So,
like a little note about whips, though, they're great for destroying those the poison spitting statues because you don't actually move. Like you remain firm in your stance.
Yeah,
as you ought to with whips.
They're according to Let's Get Cracking, the bullwhip guide, which is actually a book. They're great against the Rotten too because he doesn't have any armor. Like the fact that he's just made out of flesh. My shitty +10 Thorn Whip was doing okay versus him. So
yeah, I'll tell you what. So I rolled this new cleric today to get to do my Hexcaster, and first time trading in my petrified something, I got an old whip. Mm-hmm. This game wants me to have old whips.
Yep, old whips are great, man.
Yeah,
it will die after 6 swings.
Yep,
until you get the ring that. The bracing knuckle ring or what have you.
Yeah.
But it'll be a powerful 6 swings.
Yeah. I also don't plan to have 20 decks on this character, so it is a nice little trophy. So.
Yeah, well, so I have an interesting story with those. On my first playthrough of the game, I managed to accumulate 3 Channeler's Tridents, including one from the very first petrified thing that I set down.
Yeah. 2-hand that shit.
Yeah, super exciting. Yeah. I was very happy about that discovery.
Yeah. Somebody on Twitter offered to give me a Baldur's Side Sword. That would feel like a pale victory. Like I feel like that is only a resolution I can come to through ordeal, calm prayer, and penitence. Mm-hmm. So I've just got to farm that shit.
I have a Baldur's Side Sword with draw because I was one of those people. It was one of my favorite weapons in the original, and I spent this entire game looking for a dex-based alternative, and it just.
Yeah, dex weapons aren't great.
Yeah.
In this game, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The whips are pretty good. For just in like dorky mechanical build talk, like I've turned Whipfest into a mundane build. Like gave myself 20 across all my stats, and it's pretty neat. Like it works pretty well, and like I have tons of attunement for utility spells and shit. Like it's kind of a fun way to play. Yeah. I'd never done that before. Even though it takes advantage of a weird quirk. That seems like it. Like, are you familiar with mundane?
I mean, I am because we talked about it, Vivienne.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, it's just kind of neat to trick the game into making this thing that's underpowered actually work. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Like you can use things like the ladle and actually make them do something, which is
anything becomes viable if you make it mundane.
Yeah.
Much like movies, am I right? Popular media.
Becomes viable if you make it mundane.
Art is dead.
Okay.
Boring.
Gotcha.
Uninspired. There we go.
Okay.
Couple steps.
I got you now.
We can workshop that. You're going to edit that, right?
I'm picking you up. Yeah. I'm just going to bleep it out. Yeah. So it just sounds like you're saying dick. Much like dick, am I right? Boring. Mainstream.
Just no excitement anymore. Just everywhere you look, dick, dick, dick.
Yeah, of course the dicks. They're like poison statues. I thought when I first came in here to fight the Rotten that the poison statues in this room were going to spit poison at me.
Me too.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
That would be awful. Oh man, I can only hope that was something they tried because it's a neat idea in terms of making this arena dangerous. However, I could see it not succeeding and them saying, you know what, these are just incompletes.
Yeah. It would be, if they did that, it would be a little bit like the Tower Knight.
Yeah.
Like, you go in, you have to take out all the ranged attackers before engaging this big threat in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. This real big threat. Yeah, I've died more times than I would like to backing into one of these burning oil pits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, luckily they don't do, it's not like lava in Dark Souls 1. Like, it's somewhere between Demon Souls and Dark Souls lava. Mm-hmm. Like, you could stand in the lava, fighting Fire Lurker, for an hour and be fine. And then Dark Souls, you died really, really quickly. Here, it does drain your health pretty fast. Yeah. But not, it's not instant death, which is nice.
So, have you guys ever been hit by the Rotten's grab attack before? Because I feel like that's worth mentioning. It is absolutely disgusting and kind of awesome.
Yeah. It's really brutal. He holds you up and wrings you out.
Yeah. I've never survived it.
Yeah. You can survive it. If you have full health, you'll live, but it doesn't look like you should. But
And the strategy guide informs me that it is called the Black Gulch Twist.
I love how this version of a twist dance is somehow a surf song.
Everybody's doing the Black Gulch switch. Fred Snyder, and welcome to the Black Gulch.
Poison statues.
Man, and he when he does that, he needs both his hands, so he sticks his cleaver into his side.
Yep.
Like just like stores it in his belly room in order to twist, wring you out.
Next to the end table?
Yep. Next to the end table and next to all kinds of furious masturbating furries who've gotten stuck into the Rotten's belly room.
All the hanging meat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So he can feed his constituent parts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you ever summoned Lone Hunter Schmidt? Because I didn't know that until I looked at a wiki.
I literally was not aware that this character existed until I read your episode notes.
Yeah.
So this is news to me that Lone Hunter Schmidt, that was like something you guys had made up to try and trick me.
It's Canary Trap.
You've been prunked.
Brunked?
Prunked. It's like pranked and punked.
Yeah.
He's not like it's kind of interesting that you can summon him or Lucatiel because he is so if you want to tank the Rotten, he is an archer and will kind of ping the Rotten. But if you want to be an archer, you can summon Lucatiel to tank.
Yeah. And
both are viable. He's not a great NPC summon, but he's not the most worthless NPC summon. That honor comes up in a couple episodes with Ashen Knight Boyd. Who Ashen Knight Boyd sucks. That guy does nothing.
So since we've spent, some portion of this episode talking about the narrative significance of the dark, do we read anything into the fact that the Rotten uses dark attacks after you get him down to half health?
That ain't fits. Yeah.
No. I mean, just the idea that he is, New Game Plus spoilers, some kind of continuation of Nito. I don't know if Nito has any connection to the dark, or if it's just the the absorbed knowledge of any hex caster who was cast down the pit. I'm not sure which one of those makes more sense. But there is the fact that he has that explosion attack, and also he imbues his butcher's knife with some kind of dark attack to do a wave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nito had the exact same dark explosion attack as well.
Yeah, it was just before it was kind of, since Nito was designed before the DLC, there wasn't really dark magic at that point.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, so I don't know if that's a link to dark or if it's a link to Nito.
Yeah. I mean, all that I can think of is, Nito was the first of the dead. And, the dark is kind of associated with this primordial knowledge that is against all order that came after it.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the idea that it was brought forward, from this kind of dark abyssal force, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have nothing to back that up aside from, the the really weird suppositions that I've made in that very sentence.
Well, that the dark is associated with people, and he looks like he's made out of human bodies, so, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
With their powers really, really, really combined.
Yeah. You kill him. Like I said, he's pretty easy.
Yeah. And
actually the speed run, the non-glitch speed run used to be, called Rotten Percent because you would just get your 1,000,000 souls from bonfire asceticing him, but it turned out to be slightly faster to do, the Iron King. Because he's a little bit easier actually. But this guy's pretty easy. And, you head on down to your second primal bonfire.
Yeah. Also in a gigantic cube.
Yep. Which will, the spoiler, that's we already mentioned it. And
did
people
we?
will know.
I feel like I cut that out.
Oh, maybe you did.
I'll put a mark in there and I'll let you decide in editing. So
yeah, I don't think that matters that much. Yeah. But if people want to be babies about it, I'll cut it out. Yeah, and that's it for this area more or less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. It's funny because there's this weird abusive love-hate relationship between I wanted this to be the Blight Town and it wasn't the Blight Town. I feel like this took all of the neat design cues and lore of that and eased out the play, smoothed it out. And for that, I feel like it, kind of benefited.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it.
Yeah. Like, I would have been really happy if there was no Shrine of Amana, right? Like, I feel like this has more significance than that.
Yeah.
Like, and, it's weird that the only thing that would make people think, oh, this is going to be the hardest area, and I will be disappointed if it doesn't give me hell, is like this kind of magical thinking of, oh, there's going to be this conservation of frustration, and everything needs to land in the shit area.
Yeah.
Right? Mm. And so, it's kind of like, oh, they addressed everything people complained about with Valley of Defilement and Blighttown, and then people are like, I miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think this area, if you're going to make a legitimate criticism of this area, I think it is, of the Gutter at least, not so much Black Gulch, it is very scant. There's not a lot of interesting loot other than like Havel's armor. There's not a boss at the end. There's not really any NPCs or anything. Mm-hmm. It's very much just like a hallway between the Rat King and Black Gulch.
Yeah.
Well, Blighttown didn't have a boss either. It was, what is it, Kalog's Domain. So.
Yeah, but Blighttown was a little bit more like meaty in general,
True.
So I'll give it that. Like, I think that the Gutter itself doesn't, like, I like it because of the lighting stuff, but it does really serve as a preamble to the Black Gulch, which I really like. Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure.
But I like it. It's not my favorite area in the game. It's not my least favorite or anything.
I mean, it was hilarious coming across that title card, not the least of which was when you texted me, Gary, saying when you get to the Blighttown and you see the name of it, you're going to just, be happy forever. I mean, you were right about that last part, but I was pretty amused.
Yeah, it is very funny. Yeah. Like, they're just, and eventually just like what they're going to do in the next one. Like, if there is in Bloodborne, if there is a Gutter, which I hope there isn't, but if they do decide to go back to that well, like, how much more explicit can they make it?
The bad part of town.
Yeah.
Welcome to the bad part of town.
Dumpsterton.
The other side of the tracks.
Yeah. Just Slimeville. Pussburg.
I hope I end up being right about the other side of the track, since it is a steampunk kind of thing.
That'd be awesome. I would think that was hilarious.
Yeah. Make it a minecart level.
They're just doing everything they haven't, like, everything that Dark Souls has previously not borrowed from Call of Duty or, like, Uncharted. They're just
I was going to say Donkey Kong Country, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they actually have a lot in common with Donkey Kong Country. The Anapals, the Collectathon.
Bloodborne sucks, you guys.
Fuck Donkey Kong Country. That would be a terrible thing for the universe to do to me. Like, have Bloodborne come out and have that be like the most obvious bit of inspiration is like Donkey Kong 64. And it just, none of it comes through in the trailers, but you're actually going through and collecting vials of blood. They're just in like little lines along the path you're supposed to go. And
well, since Dark Souls 1 and 2 kind of took cues from Castlevania, we wanted to evolve and say, that was kind of the late 80s, early 90s. And what is the mid-90s, right? We're in the mid-2000s. Oh, it's going to be Donkey Kong Country.
Yep.
I don't know why I turned into some kind of, like, weird combination of a Sesame Street
Miyazaki impersonation.
like a Sesame Street character meets Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Man, oh man.
Now, you can't be Bloodborne unless you're born, which is what Miyazaki's doing to this game in 2015.
Yep.
Yep.
Buh. Anywho.
Any final thoughts on that, Viv?
Donkey Kong Country?
Yeah, what do you think ultimately?
I don't know.
Where are we at?
I want to get, like, just more conclusion other than, like, meh about this area. I'm putting you on the spot. If you're wondering where you're at, it's on the spot.
Yeah, I like it. I enjoyed. I feel like it's almost like the Gutter and Black Gulch are sort of like two parts of one well-designed area. Yeah. That if you took either part of it out, like, both of them would really feel short and scant and like something was missing.
Yeah.
But putting them together and thinking of it as kind of one big area makes it make a lot more sense. And in that sense, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a surprisingly well-balanced and fun to play through, except for when you get into PvP there, which is not what I expected from an area called the Gutter, or one that Gary suggested I cover for the show. So,
yeah.
Haven't done PvP here yet.
Yeah,
online.
It seems it's basically a great like reversal of fortune moment, because when you invade in Black Gulch, you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to be the biggest shit in the world for invading in this area that's just full of these terrible statues that it's impossible to run away from me because it's just a hallway. And then you realize that the statues don't discriminate, and it's terrible. And then of course you're like at a disadvantage healing compared to the host, and it's
unbalanced.
I absolutely hate it. It was the worst mistake I've ever made.
I guess I would imagine.
I'll never go back.
Man, you're lucky.
True. We're friends on Facebook. That's not true.
I have a much better insight into the mistakes you've made.
Yeah. That's the worst mistake you've ever made. You've lived a good life, my friend. An ancient proverb.
Oh man.
What are we doing next time, Cole?
Well, next time we are going to the last spoke that we have not gone to. Because we have 2 fragrant branches of yore by now, I think. Yeah, something like that. And we're headed over to the Shaded Woods, the place over by the juice and the statue lady. And we're just going to plunge into the mist and see what happens. And we're going to be joined. This is a big one by Joseph Cartier.
I've never heard it. I feel a little bit bad because I've interacted with him on Twitter and everything, but I've never heard it pronounced.
I've said it both ways it could probably be said, so we're safe. So cart /yay or J.
Yeah. And Joseph is the community manager for Namco Bandai. Yeah. Who is a real big Souls fan. It comes through in everything he does, and I was really happy when he responded when we reached out.
So I'm going to say this on the air, Gary. You are the person who does most of the guest getting for this show, and this is a huge get. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Yeah. And I don't want to toot my own horn, but for this episode, I managed to land Vivienne.
Yeah. I was going to say I'm just sandwiched between luminaries here. It makes me feel terrible.
It shouldn't make you feel terrible. I hope that people who listen appreciate that we get people who are, kind of bigger names, and then we also get people who we are friends with and have previous relationships with. Because I like that mix a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think that it would be like, I'm glad that we have you and Murph and Jeremy and stuff to kind of be part of our regulars on the show.
Yeah.
As well as getting some people that are experienced in different ways. Like, I like that we kind of do that variety. So hopefully people who listen like that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, how, is there any way on the internet that people can find you, Viv?
Not particularly. I post on the Something Awful forum that says Zombies Downfall. I haunt the Facebook walls of most of the Duckfeed pages. So, yeah, I mean, if anybody, just needs a helping hand or shoulder to cry
on. Are you sitting backwards on your chair?
Yeah. Hey, guys.
No.
Yeah,
But I will.
This is what a rap session.
Yeah, Viv is my guidance counselor, in case anyone's wondering. So,
if there are any threads in SA Games that have a 1 or 2 rating, you can probably find me somewhere in there.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, in the I always appreciate what you have to say. Yeah. Like you think about this game and are thoughtful about video games in general in a way that I am not good at, but I have a great appreciation for. It's something that like I feel like I'm not it is an approach that I can't take. I have a hard time taking, but I love. So it is I'm a big fan. And if you ever do decide to do, I know you've threatened a couple times to do some kind of project with that. And if you ever do, I will pursue that. So, and appreciate it. So.
Oh, thank you very much.
Welcome. Where can people find us, Cole?
Well, people can find us at Duckfeed.tv. We have a bunch of shows there. You can also find all of the old episodes of this show, covering Dark Souls 1, Demon Souls, and some miscellanea in between, such as Berserk and Kingsfield. It's just a cool place to be. There's a lot of audio content that happens there. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/bonfiresidechat.
Yeah. You can also, if you want to support us directly, you can go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and kick us a couple of bucks a month. There are, it's a good way to help out the show, but it also get you some stuff. You get the shows a day early. You can participate in our live stream that we do once a month. There are some kind of physical rewards and the like. It is a good, fun place to be.
Yeah. In relation to that live stream, there is a new show on the network. It is Duckfeed Live. That is the audio version of that, distributed roughly a month after the initial broadcast. And it is a good time. So if you want to get a knock-on effect of that and get a kind of audio-only preview of what is involved in that particular affair, it is just, duckfeed.tv/DF Live.
Yeah. And if you're looking, I've got kind of a new thing I wanted to bring up. So if you, I have started writing some reviews for readretro.com, which is the website that goes along with Retro Magazine. It's the magazine that got kickstarted. It's got like Jeremy Parrish and Chris Kohler and all those guys. I'm hoping to do some stuff for the magazine. Right now I'm just doing the website, but I just put up my first review today on Little Nemo the Dream Master, the NES game, and I'm going to be contributing to that. So check that out. And that's a really good, real good group of people and really excellent magazine and good website. So head on that way, and you can check out some stuff that I've written. Yeah, I think that's probably about it.
I mean, the usual overture of iTunes and all that. Tell your friends. If you have any friends who you have successfully converted to Dark Souls or Dark Souls 2 or whatnot, you can say, hey, this is a great companion piece after you have decided you like this thing.
Yep. And if you don't like it, don't suggest it. But you know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we will see you in a week with some responses and the like about the gutter.
Umbasa.
Or what should they do?
No,
I forgot how to sign off the show.
Okay. having initiated that without going through it. No, you just watch out. No, that is the wrong. That is the wrong show. Also, oh God, Gary, what's happening? I'm so ready for my vacation. Yeah. Dear God,
no. Suffering from content poisoning.
Yes, I am.
We have to keep all of this stuff straight because we record a lot of audio.
Yes, we do. You know what? They should seek misery.
So that lest this land swallow them whole.
So the world might be mended. Umbasa.
Umbasa.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Say it, Vivienne, please. We can't finish it unless you do. There we go. Okay, cool.
I'm sorry.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon